Hello good people of the internet, and welcome to my hard light controlling guide, part the second. This one is going to be not for DPS, for controlling. This one's just going to take you through some of the things that you might need to consider when you're controlling high tier raids. Such as FOS 1, 2, 3, South Gotham Courthouse, and also the Tier 4 content, Gates of Tartarus and the Prime Battleground. Now, what I'm going to do is actually use my Prime Battleground loadout. Yes, I hard light control Prime Battleground. It's a ton of fun. I actually ran Prime Battleground earlier today with a hard light controller as the primary controller, and I was the debuffer. That was a lot of fun. Non-sarcastically, it was a lot of fun. Nipping in, debuffing, nipping out, nipping in, debuffing, nipping out, all that jazz. Now, I'm going to assume that you've watched part 1, which details how what weapons to use. So I'm just going to show I use dual pistols. As I explained in part 1, that's purely because of its ability to kite you out of trouble with slipshot, which I'll just show you here. 2 slipshots and a long way travelled, which is great. And that's basically how I stay alive in Prime Battleground, using dual pistols. Just because I use dual pistols doesn't mean to say that you have to. Bow is an absolutely beast of a weapon for controlling, and it is an absolutely fantastic weapon for DPSing as well, but it doesn't have an ability to automatically get you out of trouble without rolling. You have to roll in bow, and some degree also roll with rifle, but rifle with its rolling barrage takes you a long way away, but it takes you so far that it turns into mortar, as I explained. I'm digressing, but I prefer dual pistols for hard light controlling. For any other controlling type, I use bow. So let's just go through the powers. Again, I'm going to assume that you've watched part 1. I explained the power trees there. I'm just going to cover the debuffs and the buff. Buff is the light claws, is the power over time. All these other powers, from the left, minigun, then you've got ram, then strafing run, chompers on the left, whip thrash, which I'm on now, fan on the bottom left, and snap trap on the bottom right. Snap trap is a healer debuff, which is great in single. Actually, it's fantastic for PvP, but it's not so great for what I'm talking about for Prime Battleground. I'll explain why in a second. Support tree is the tree that I actually went into a little bit more. A lot of people think the support tree doesn't really have that great degree of powers. It actually does for some specific roles. Just put that out there. For other roles, it ain't so great. I've used light barrier and shielding once or twice, and once or twice was enough. It wasn't that great. Impact is the train that you see running around every now and then. Recharges the power that you absolutely have to take from this tree, which involves also using boxing, which is the second power over time. But the other ones that I've come down here for are grasping hand, the damage debuff, and light blast, a healer debuff. Now you can take lightweight as a damage debuff, but that only leaves you with snap trap as your healer debuff, and I'll show you why in a second why I don't use snap trap. Word of Power is great, as many of you are aware. Word of Power is the go-to controller supercharge. It basically amps up your power over time over a very short period, but it basically it ticks, I think, for 6 counts, and it scales up the power over time according to your vitalization. So it regularly for me gives out about 200 to 300 power every couple of seconds, and that ticks for about 6 ticks, so that's at least 2 6s, 2000. Well, you can do the math. 200 to 300 power back every 2 to 3 seconds for 6 seconds. I'm not that great with mental math. I don't use intimidating gaze. It's for tier 1 to tier 2 is great, but for tier 3 and above you don't really need it. You're getting a lot of dominance from your other gear, so I don't actually use that because of the loadout that I've got, but I do use Wisdom of Solomon for its 50 plus vit and 100 plus power. It's just a must. Right, loadout. Oh, sorry, skills. Not weapons. Low pressure for FOS 1 and 2 for the Sunstone Herald and the Broodmother, and on the bridge it's okay, as is Airburst. Airburst is okay for, not for FOS 1 and 2, for the South Gotham Courthouse. When you get locked in those boxes, use Airburst. Anyone can use Airburst, and you get 200 power back over 10 seconds. That is a must power. If you don't have that, I would consider knocking off Dust Off and putting that in. It's not a supercharge. Dust Off is great, but and frees you from control effects, which is absolutely fantastic. But if you've got a spare skill point, buy Airburst. Loadouts, control. Right. Light Claws, power over time. Recharge is the might and precision buff for 6 seconds, and instant power out to the 3 most fatigued group members, as it used to be called, but that isn't there now. Whip Thrash is the defense debuff, Grasping Hand damage debuff, Light Blast healer debuff, and Word of Power supercharge. For FOS 1 Sunstone Herald, this is the loadout that I run. And FOS 1 Sunstone Herald and Broodmother use low pressure and fan to pull, just in case the ice tank has missed one. Use fan. On FOS 2, when you get on the bridge, what I do is wait for the ice tank to pull the adds off the bridge, and just as they're about to drop, use fan, and it pulls the whole group again even further, which basically means they've got further to travel before they can get back to getting on the bridge, which is great. So that goes to there, but that is basically the loadout that I use for Prime Battleground, and I'll explain why I use, not swoop, why I use Light Blast right now. Right, you can see there is a mess of trash down there. So what I'm going to do is go over to a large-ish group here, cycle the camera out, and do that. Every single one of those is stunned, and every single one of those is healer debuffed. I'm going to wait a couple of seconds until the control resistance wears off, and drop down again and show you again. So it's dropped down now. Do exactly the same thing. Well, you can't see it that well. There are 3 there, but let's do it. Let's do it now. There you go. All of them. Now, why I choose Light Blast over Snap Trap is because Snap Trap is a single target healer debuff, whereas Light Blast is multiple stun, which basically incapacitates a whole bunch of people, and then grounds, stuns, healer debuffs, and just incapacitates a whole mess of people, where Snap Trap just damage over time. It does incur slight damage over time, but that's not your job. So for Prime Battleground, what I tend to do is use Whip Thrash and also Grasping Hand, and to some degree also Light Blast to summarily stun a group of ads before many of the spawners are able to be taken down. And when we get onto Brainiac, basically use Light Blast while locked onto Brainiac. Use Light Blast while you are in line of sight of all 4 healer drones. That will basically ground them, stun them, healer debuff them, and incapacitate them for the DPSs to take out the healer drones. Wait a couple of seconds for their control resistance to wear off, and do exactly the same again. You ground them, stun them, healer debuff. In that, basically, if you've got a hard light controller in Prime Battleground and you've managed to get to Brainiac and they have Light Blast, Brainiac should never be able to heal himself. That is that effective. Right, the next thing to go through is clipping. Now, because almost all the hard light powers will take you in close up. See, they both went about two of these stones worth here that are in the way. So what I'm going to do is Whip Thrash, which is this one, which does actually take you 2 of these slabs forward, and clip it with Recharge. So that's unclipped, and then, sorry, clipped. I went 1 step. Then you got Grasping Hand, which is that, about 2-second power animation, clipped with Recharge. When you've not got your cola. And basically what that will do is apply the debuffs, clip the animation with Recharge, and enable you to carry on doing what you're doing. Light Blast is a funny one. You can clip Light Blast with boxing, but I don't like to. You can do if you want to, but you will fly into Brainiac. So if you want to clip Light Blast with boxing, and I really, really wouldn't recommend it, is you hit that, then melee and Recharge. It's a 3-button combo. I really wouldn't consider doing it. Just leave Light Blast for when you're going up against Brainiac and you should be okay. Right, the next thing to go through is Word of Power, which is an absolute beast of a supercharge. See, I've got 0 power. It's starting to come back now, but that's a long animation. Really is, but it gives an absolute beast of amount of power back to you, which is great. So let's just use Whip Thrash, Grasping Hand, and Whip Thrash, and Grasping Hand again. And just use a cola, because I'll need to use a cola. Use that. You can clip Word of Power with Recharge. So basically what I do is on the first tray, the L2 tray, is have every power on there that is clippable on there with the main power that you can clip it with on triangle. So every power that I'm able to clip is within a thumb's movement of the clipping power. Word of Power, as you can tell, is on the same button as the clipping power, so all I have to do is just change trigger. Use Word of Power and clip it with either the trinket or the Recharge. But the trinket is also clippable with Recharge as well, so there you go. And I think that's pretty much it. So that's everything covered. Clipping, the main issue with hard light controlling covered, which is that it's basically melee range. Which weapon I use? Dual pistols. Went through the powers and why I've chosen them, and that's pretty much it. So that's the way that I run Prime Battleground and also any other raids. When you're in basic raids, I use chompers in place of light blast for crowd controlling, but that's pretty much it. Have a good time.